Hello, everybody. Valor Swanson here. My voice cracked there because I think we have a very, very interesting show today. A little later on, our guest, Andy Bird, Director of Product Development at LifeSize, is going to be joining us. And just quick reminder about myself, Valor Swanson with LifeSize. I used to run contact centers, 21 contact centers at one point. Used to have to buy these things, implement them, run a huge P&L, and was the VP of customer care at the time. And so I'm coming from a practitioner standpoint when we talk about these various topics about, I never get it right, CX in the cloud. And today is part 4 of a 4-part series in customer experience differentiated, which is very, very important because you want to differentiate yourself from your competitors. And with all this technology out there, it can be quite confusing. Where do you start? Where do you put it? How does it work? And we like to take these concepts and really make them something that you can talk to your colleagues about, that folks on the call can have a little bit of fun in understanding it, and a little bit more light tone to some things that you might have seen on some of the other shows out there. Now, after each one of these shows, again, there's a blog, and the blog is a little bit more serious in tone, and it's something that you could probably pass on to your boss if you're trying to get them to consider some of these technologies. But today's show is customer experience differentiated, AI influencing your routing decisions. Talk to me, Goose. And Andy's going to come on in a little while and actually explain that very unique title that we have as it relates to AI. But before we do that, let's talk about the 3 takeaways from last week. So last week we were talking about how AI is actually has an ability as a psychoanalyst, as a psychiatrist, to get into the subconscious of your contact center, because your contact center is conscious. The conversations that are happening between your customers and your agents is a conscious act, and then the consciousness of your customers as well. And so with those 3 things in play, there's a subconscious, and how do we tap into that? And so this is how AI, using sentiment analysis, can help you deepen the insight and enlighten you on prescribing, as a psychiatrist does, what you should be doing to improve your CX program. And then finally, on the 3rd takeaway here from last week's show is AI in the contact center as a service in the cloud is something that can be deployed quite quickly and with immediate results, and make sure that your company's unique USP is actually embodied in the consciousness of your contact center as it relates to how you're interacting with your customers. Now, let's set the scene. Let's talk about this kooky title here, right? Because we like to have fun with this, right? We were talking earlier about how customer experience should be fun. So we're trying to make it fun here for you guys to really want to participate in the dialogue here. So, setting the scene, guys. So, who is your customer's wingman? When you're calling your favorite company, and you're trying to buy something, and you're trying to make your way through the IVR, and you're trying to get to the right agent, and you're trying to purchase something or get something resolved. Don't you wish you had somebody kind of like helping you, guide you to the right target so that you can actually get what you're trying to do done in the best fashion, in the safest fashion, in the most accurate fashion? And what better than to have a wingman to actually support you with that? So Andy Bird is going to be joining us here. Special guest, Director of Product Development, is going to unpack this routing wingman concept to make sure that we all have a Goose helping us ensure that the maximum contact center maximum one and done occurs. Okay, so what in the world are these 2 CX professional nerds talking about today, right? Well, we're going to be talking about the world of intelligent routing and how AI can influence the decisions that are made so that your customer is going to the right target through that wingman. And as you know, I always start off with some kind of factoid, something that's, something that sticks in your minds of like, oh, I didn't realize this is, has that much of an impact. But according to Forrester research, they found that revenue is impacted with just 1 point of improvement in your CX index, to the tune of potentially, again, depending on your size and the respective ratios here, of $175 million annually. Just 1 point index improvement. And that's huge. I mean, that's huge revenue. Again, talking about, your contact center getting respect, that your contact center strategic hub of your business is improving the customer experience. And of course, that can be done by making sure that your customer has a wingman. So let's talk about our North Star real quick before we get Andy on board. And remember, guys, every time we open up in this series, we're talking about here on the slide that your customers want fast response times. They want consistency across the channels and a knowledgeable staff and a clear, consistent messaging here on the slide. Just real quick, let's just pop that up there so everybody is on the same page. And there you go. Perfect. I like that. Was new. Okay. So clear, consistent messaging, a person to speak with, and multiple contact points. But again, they want fast response time. And fast response means you get to the target. I don't want to say obliterate it, but you make sure that you hit it with what you want, and then it gets the response that you require so that you're satisfied with the result. So, question: do you want to track dynamic churn risk? Do you want to drive inbound retention? Do you want to improve your retention marketing? Of course, you're going to be saying yes to all these things, right? Do you want to improve your service quality so that you can boost your net promoter score, your CSAT, your first call resolution rates, first contact resolution rates across the customer life cycle? And of course, the lasting effect, that emotional, kiss, that kind of like that connection, which is the customer awareness, customer-driven awareness that you're putting out there, that your customers can feel, that they're aware that, you're thinking about me, you're tthinking about how I engage with you so that I can get what I need fast, quickly, and accurately. So, Andy's going to join us right now. Welcome, Andy. Welcome to the show. So Andy, what's going on there? What's happening behind you, man? You're on mute, Andy. You're on mute, buddy. You're on mute, sir. You're on mute. Mute.
I said I got Maverick from Top Gun, and
there you go.
Yeah, I was muting because I was laughing during your intro, and I didn't want the whole audience to hear me laughing because I was backstage.
Okay. All right. Cool. So before Andy gets into this life-size poster of Maverick in the background, let's remind everybody where we are. Okay. So in our series, on the slide here, we are talking about the fact that AI can fit into any one of these areas: pre-interaction, during interaction, post-interaction. In today's show, in the routing. So we got a little airplane there, being routed to the right place, and your customers are loving you for it. And so that's what we're going to be covering today. And again, take us to the deep end of the pool, take us to the mountain and talk to us about, these wise things. But Andy, I just want to put a quick little anecdote up here, a little cartoon, a little humor thing here about, you're not necessarily talking about this, are you? Which is, and let me read this here. So, hello, Acme Home Delivery. This must be Joey Karpiski. What's wrong? Is the sweater we sent you too large? That's right. How did you know? After all these years, don't you think we recognize our favorite customer? Don't worry. Well, you'll grow into it, Joey. Wait a minute. Is that you, Mom? Are you eating enough? We have a special homemade pies this week. Now, Andy, I would submit that that's overkill in personalized routing. So I would suggest that, as you go into the description of, what this Wingman is, talk to me Goose thing, you're more or less talking about this next thing here, this next slide here, aren't you?
I am. So the thing that's interesting about this is that the depiction you've done in the comic, I've actually watched vendors sell it that way, right? That your mom's going to be picking up the phone. And here's where we start this challenge before I get into this slide is we have most of the CCAS people out there have some way of doing what we call IFTAs, right? If then do this, right? So they have this flow tool. And in that flow tool, there has been always this conversation, this belief that I can tie in anything that I want to do that, which kind of is the case. The challenge is there's no intelligence necessarily behind that before it gets to the flow tool. And the reality is the flow tools themselves don't have intelligence built in. Mm-hmm. And so what we find is, how do we make the flow tool better? This is where we get the whole talk to me Goose. So anybody who's ever seen Top Gun, knows, we have a need for speed, that's right, Iceman, all the famous quotes. But one of them is Maverick is flying the plane and he goes, talk to me, Goose. Something befell Goose and Maverick still felt like he needed his co-pilot. So AI ends up being this co-pilot for that flow, for the engine. When we're looking at CCAS, we're looking at two core components, right? And the first one is the routing, and we'll talk about the second one on a later show. But that routing component has to get as much information as possible, and it has to be intelligently passed on to that engine. And so what happens here now, Aaron, you can bring up that slide we talk about it a little bit, is we've got this beginning of the interaction. Maybe she didn't hear me. There she is. Oh, not that one. Go back one. So we got this initial interaction, and what happens in that initial interaction is I want to have as much information given as possible. There we go. So that I can do this matching, and we'll talk about this a little bit more. So what I'm doing is I'm gathering all the data that was claimed to be able to be done by the engine, but the engine needs its, it needs its oil, it needs its supercharger is the best way to put it. Where I'm buffering up, and turbochargers actually do this best on engines if you know them, but it buffers up and then it gets ready to do that burst. And we're doing the same thing here. We're gathering all that information so I can pass it along for the caller that's calling in, so that the engine knows what to do with it. And so I'm assigning more to it than I ever thought before. Now, again, those engines are good. I can go grab some data from different sources, and I can match a caller ID to that information and maybe make a better decision. That would be awesome. But if I can hand you that with that decision already made of all that information, and then you know what to do, that's where AI comes into play. So imagine I'm taking weather data. I could be taking political data, the state of affairs. I'm taking data from multiple sources, and then I'm running a score with all those sources so that I can then tell the engine, hey, you know what? This is one of those customers that needs to do this. And that's how that routing works.
So you said something important there. It's you're getting this information so that a decision could be made. And I think a key distinction there in what you said was the decisions is already made based on a score.
Right. So, well, it is. So let's break that down a little bit. The engine still needs the capability to make the decision. So this is an influencer, right? This is the talk to me, Goose. Tell me what you think right now, what I should be doing. Do I engage right now or not, type of a thing. Yes. So who do I send this to? Which group? And so what you're building in your CCAS platform is you're building groups with the skills and the preference levels on each one of those individual agents. Yeah. And now with this information, I go, of my group, I need to tell the engine to actually go this direction versus that direction. Where previously caller called in and it went, based upon the fact they picked customer support, I'm going to just send them to this broader group. Now I can go, no, I'm going to send them to the customer success group that has the highest proficiency for resell or to upsell or technical support for internet. You see what I'm saying? So I get specific about it.
That's correct target.
Yeah, there you go. There's your target. It's your target.
Exactly. I like it. The customer only has so many missiles, right? This can't be like, and the customer's time is valuable, just like these missiles are valuable, right?
That's right.
Yep. And so we just can't be just shooting, blanks and making the customer go to the wrong place and wasting their time, which is of value and money, and can cause lots of consternation with them if they don't hit their target, right?
Right. Because you talked earlier about, all the things that customers want, right? They want efficiency. They want to be, in a way, we almost want to be upsold when we call into a contact center, because we may not know what we don't know. So if I just bought a Jeep and I just bought a cover for my Jeep, and I call in, and the propensity of me who have bought a cover for my Jeep will also buy a new wheel well covers, why wouldn't I suggest to them? Because I may not know it's on sale. I may not have found that on the web. And now this person has the expertise to know that I've done that. They know the context. They know where I live. Maybe they know that I live in Moab. And so they want to offer me those wheel wells because of that.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
those things become contextual information that the AI can help with.
Yeah, I just wanted to remind me to get some new Armor All for my tire, because I always end up like on the third wheel when I run out of Armor All. So
do you even have a car in the UK?
Of course I do.
Is it like this big? Because the last time I was there, I think the average car was like 4 foot by.
I got a chunky size car that needs lots of Armor All. So if the AI can, target me to the right agent that can upsell me on that, I'm a happy camper.
You just can't find a parking spot there.
Yeah,
I've been to London multiple times.
I know it's a bit crazy here.
Yeah.
So what's happening here is the AI is also taking into account not just the customer's profile and what they're requesting and pulling their data and what they did before. But they're also taking on some psychometric data, like some of the sentiment analysis that came back on how the customer's maybe mood was before.
Yeah.
But even beyond that, they're also on the flip side, on the matching side of the target here, they're looking at the agent's training history, the agent's skills that they've been taught on, which products and services that they're aware of, and including, I would submit that including psychometric data, that subconscious stuff about the agent and how the agent responds to a certain type of customer, so that so you've got that connection there. That's a well-oiled connection with the customer and the agent. Can you talk a little bit about that? How does that work?
Yeah, because you mentioned something earlier that I think is important, and that is you're looking at it from, when we look at it, remember, when we're doing CCAS, we have two different customers we're dealing with. We have our customers from a CCAS perspective, so the people who consume our product, but then we have our customers' customers. So we're a B2B to C business. And in doing so, we're looking at two different aspects, because I care about agent optimization, but I also, especially now, especially because of the pandemic, I care about agent enablement. I not only do I want to optimize the agent, but I really want to give them the best call possible, because I want them to stick around. I need those top end agents, and so I want to make their lives better. I mean, we're really here at Lifestyles, we're all about making people's lives better, right? So we want to make their lives better. We want to make the customers' lives better too. So it's looking at, yes, to your point, it's not only looking at my preference levels, it's looking at what group I'm in, but you said another key thing that I really love. This type of AI really can leverage all types of other AIs. So what I mean by that is the pre, during, and post that we've talked about in previous shows. It can actually look to all that data, and it can actually make really, really good decisions based upon that data. So whether they went in through a virtual agent or got conversational AI before, all the way back to the sentiment analysis that you talked about.
Right. Including saying you're going to grow into the sweater, Joey, right?
There you go.
Now, okay, so what we're happening here, we're basically we're dynamically correlating customer calls with these specific things to tailor, or as we say here in the UK, bespoke, personalized experience that the customer is going to get. I mean, and you can't get any more personalized than a very smooth call where personality matches personality, ability matches requirements, outcome with a surprise of like, hey, Val, I heard you need some armor all too, because you're always running out. You bought some like 4 weeks ago. So the experience is one where it's smooth, easy, and the customer is actually getting a little bit of an aha moment of like, wow, these guys are really aware of what I need, not just in me getting to the right place, but in that interaction once that connection occurs.
Sure, because now I can even influence the scripting. So I can tell the agent information, and I can influence the scripting. So while the agent's sitting there, they get some of this contextual information from the AI to know, hey, I bought XYZ before. This is a great add-on sale to that. When you buy a kayak, you want oars type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Now, this sounds really 2021. It's now, isn't it?
It is now. I mean, it does sound. It seems to be futuristic, but we do see different clients optimizing and utilizing this in their contact center, and it's becoming much more regular, and even more so now because we want that agent enablement and we want that customer experience to be good. So those two things being the drivers, this is one of those things that helps. And we'll talk about it later in the program, but the trick is in order to determine where you want AI, it comes down to why. And we probably should show our little diagram, don't you think?
Which one?
That one.
Yeah. Okay.
This is a very simple example of callers. And in this scenario, and credit all goes to Voss at Score Data for helping put this together and sending this over. But in this scenario, you've got callers, and now I get a propensity score that's driven back based upon some other information. Again, that other information can be some of the stuff we've already talked about. I get them a score, and then I know, and as you can see here, it's highlighted a specific agent, which is then going to get scripted with a specific offer to give to that caller. Really makes the agent's life that much easier. Okay,
Yeah.
Valor's calling in. I know that he has a propensity of buying this at this moment in time because of whatever the AI has decided. The offer pops up on my screen, and I'm now able to share it with him.
Right.
It's huge. It's huge.
Now, but I would think too, just playing devil's advocate, and also pushing a little bit, being a contact center leader guy in the past, isn't this also have the propensity to kind of like in the little cartoon I had in the beginning? Isn't it also, if you kind of do overkill,
Sure.
you have the customer like I don't want the armor. Why are you offering that?
You can get scary. You can get scary with any good new technology for sure, and that's always a possibility. Again, you're looking for that happy medium of what is optimizing, what's making enablement, and you're going to leave it at that point in time. And then it's really up to, but I mean, let's look at some of the contact centers we know. We won't mention the name of the shoe company, but I know of a shoe company that their whole entire job in life is to keep callers on the phone.
Yeah.
And they will. Right. And the agents get bonused on how long they've actually talked to a customer. So, and by the way, they're running like 2, 3, and 4 hour calls. I kid you not.
Oh, wow.
Because they're finding that the customer experience is that much higher that they can, just talk about the weather or whatever it is that they want to talk about. Yeah. And the people who are calling in need more than just to buy a new pair of shoes. They want someone to listen to them.
Yeah.
They found that. And so this is another way for you to find those key points with your customers. And I know we're running out of time, buddy, so I'm going to let you jam.
Yeah. So my screen's about to cut off here, but let me hurry up. But so the 3 takeaways here, guys, are you're talking to me, Goose, right? You're hold on. Let me just make sure my screen doesn't cut off, guys. 1 second. I do apologize for this. I would hate for this thing to go off in the middle of the show. But so the 3 takeaways here are we got really all kinds of little problems here today. So my 3 takeaways here, guys, are customers need a wingman to route them to the right target. To make sure that they get what they're trying to accomplish done accurately and safely and to the best, with the best outcome. And the second one here is personalized service with a higher than industry standard first contact resolution rates. Now, first contact resolution rates is an interesting way because not only does it improve the customer experience in the sense that, I don't have to talk to you again about whatever it is I'm talking to you about, but also because it's one and done, you increase your capacity, thus not needing additional agents because your first contact resolution rate is low and it's multiple calls, repeated calls coming in. And the final one is that these customers out there that are doing this, they're trying to adopt technologies that are frictionless. That a CX engagement that is frictionless, and think about where are the friction points, and a routing, with decisions being influenced by AI can actually make sure that routing is a lot more frictionless. So this was part 4 of our 4-part series. But Andy, I'd like for you to kind of close it out with just kind of summary of the what, why, how, and how does somebody approach this from an overall standpoint, considering everything we talked about over the last 4 weeks.
You got it. So the best thing that I've done with customers in this regard is I have them list out their pain points. What is it that they're trying to accomplish? Lots of people have come to us and said, hey, I want AI. And I say, why do you want AI? And they go, I don't know, because my boss told me to. Okay, cool. So where do you have the biggest problems in your contact center? And they say, well, we're trying to get more efficiency, or we need to reduce cost, whatever it might be. At that point in time, we start drilling into their why of why they need it or where their pain points are. And that's what we're able to determine in these 4 areas, which is going to be the highest value. And it might be a combination of the 4, but nonetheless, that's what it comes down to, is find your why. Why do you want this? Where are your pain points and where do you think this can solve it? And then we can help you make that happen. If you can't do that, then you give us a call. And at that point in time, we will help you. We'll go through it with you. We'll ask the right questions and we'll be able to determine that for you.
Right. So the customer does not have to worry about being overwhelmed, basically, is what you're saying.
No. I just worked with a very, very large healthcare company on this exact thing. And in the conversation with them, we came down to their why. They wanted efficiency. They wanted efficiency on the front end of the call, but they wanted efficiency during the call. So there was a couple of different technologies we could implement that made their lives better.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Andy. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show, guys. We're going to continue our live streams, customer experience in the cloud. We have some very creative topics coming up to help you guys understand, how this is actually going to help your customers grow your customer base, as well as improve the efficiency of your contact centers from the various topics that will be coming up. So, guys, thanks again for joining us today for CX in the Cloud, and we'll catch you guys next week. Cheers.